What's up, everybody, and welcome to NFL Nexus. You know, in the NFL, you've got GMs who are gamblers, you've got GMs who are basically accountants, but once in a while, you find a true architect. And today, we are putting on our hard hats and taking a deep look at the 2026 blueprint for the Indianapolis Colts. Their GM, Chris Ballard, is basically taking a wrecking ball to parts of his own foundation, all in an effort to build something bigger, better, and way more stable for the future. He's making these really calculated, strategic, and, let's be honest, for a lot of fans, pretty painful decisions. So today we're going to deconstruct this entire plan piece by piece, from the trades that made you say whoa to the sneaky good signings, and ask that ultimate question: is this a design for a Super Bowl contender? If you're ready for a real deep dive, do me a favor and subscribe to NFL Nexus, give this explainer a like, and definitely drop a comment below letting me know what you think of Ballard's bold vision.
All right, so here's the game plan for breaking down Ballard's grand design. First up, we're going to survey the whole job site and really get a feel for why this 2026 offseason is so incredibly important for the Colts. Then, we move into the demolition phase. Yeah, the hard goodbyes. We're talking about cornerstone players that just left the fan base stunned. After that dust settles, we'll check out the new materials being brought in, the very calculated additions meant to fill those new holes. We'll also peek at the schematics, because it looks like another pretty big domino is about to fall. And then finally, we'll step all the way back, look at this whole project, and evaluate the final blueprint. Let's get right into it.
So let's kick it off with Section 1, a pivotal offseason. Look, every team says they have an important offseason, but for the Colts, 2026 just feels different, you know? This is a team at a real crossroads. They've been good enough to be in the hunt, always kind of knocking on the playoff door, but they just haven't been able to bust through to that top tier, that elite Super Bowl contender level. They've got their young quarterback, which is great, but the team around him has been this mix of older, expensive veterans and some unproven young guys. So the moves Ballard is making right now are all about breaking that cycle. This isn't just about shuffling some players around to maybe win 9 games again. This is a full-on reset of how they build the team, and it's going to define the next 5 years for this entire organization.
And all this work started way before the cameras and the hype of the NFL draft. I mean, the Colts front office has been working around the clock, like a 24/7 construction crew, just totally reshaping this roster. We're seeing major trades for key guys, some surprising signings. It's sending shockwaves through that locker room. But let's be really clear here. This is not a complete teardown. It's not like a 2-win team selling off every single asset for draft picks. No. This is more like a rebuild on the fly, a really strategic renovation. What Ballard is trying to pull off is one of the hardest things to do in professional sports. Keep the team good enough to make a run this season, while at the same time building a cheaper, younger, and more sustainable foundation for the long haul. It is a serious high-wire act, and believe me, one wrong step could bring the whole thing crashing down.
And really, that brings us right to the absolute core question of this entire explainer, right? It's the one every single Colts fan is asking themselves. It's great to be busy, to be making moves, but are they being smart? Are these the kinds of moves that build a team that can go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs and the Bills in the AFC? Or are they just kind of rearranging the furniture? Over the next few minutes, we're going to peel back every single layer of these moves, looking not just at the players, but the strategic why behind it all. We're going to weigh the short-term pain against that potential long-term gain.
Any good architect will tell you that before you can build up, you usually have to tear some stuff down first. And that brings us to Section 2, the hard goodbyes. This is the part that always stings during a renovation. It means deconstructing the roster, saying goodbye to players who've been the face of the team for years, fan favorites, leaders in the locker room. I mean, these are the kinds of decisions that really test a GM's guts and a fan base's patience. But for Chris Ballard's plan, there are absolutely necessary, foundational steps to make this new blueprint work.
And the first swing of that sledgehammer was a move I don't think anyone really saw coming. It was a genuine shocker. The Colts traded away their #1 receiver, the offensive security blanket, Michael Pittman Jr. They shipped him off to the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that was just desperate for a proven wideout. For Colts fans, man, this one hurt. Pittman was the guy, the reliable, tough-as-nails receiver who would go over the middle, take a huge hit, and still get you that first down on 3rd and long. He was a team captain. He was his quarterback's best friend out there. So losing him isn't just a hole on the depth chart. It's a huge void right in the heart and soul of that offense.
Okay, so if the draft picks they got back wasn't anything special, why on earth would they do it? Well, the answer, as it usually is in the modern NFL, comes down to this big number right here. $24 million. That is the insane amount of salary cap space the Colts instantly freed up for the 2026 season by trading Pittman. Let me put that in perspective for you. In the NFL's world of a hard salary cap, that is a game-changing sum of money. We're talking about enough cash to go out and sign a top-tier pass rusher and a starting cornerback in free agency. It's the kind of financial firepower that lets you re-sign your own young stars before they can even think about leaving. So this trade was never about the draft pick. It was always about buying future flexibility.
So you can see right here, the pick swap itself was basically nothing. Moving from a 7th to a 6th is just shuffling some late day 3 paperwork. The real trade was Pittman's production for all that cap space. But you have to understand, this decision didn't just happen in a bubble. The key piece of context is that just a few days before this, the Colts had committed a massive 4-year, $116 million contract to their other starting wide receiver, Alec Pierce. You just can't pay 2 receivers top-of-the-market money in today's NFL and still have enough cash to build a complete team. So the front office made a very clear strategic choice. They decided they valued Pierce's skill set, his pure straight-line speed, his ability to blow the top off a defense, more than they valued Pittman's role as the reliable chain mover. Once they paid Pierce, it basically made Pittman and his $24 million salary expendable. It was a clear either-or decision, and they went with Pierce.
And this quote right here from ESPN's Seth Walder, it really just boils it down to the cold, hard business side of things. He basically ignores the on-field stuff and frames this as a pure, cold-blooded financial calculation. The Colts are paying Alec Pierce $29 million a year. They looked at Pittman's $24 million salary and just decided, nope, the value isn't there, they can't have that much money tied up at one position. But that last sentence from Walder is the most brutal part. He says the Colts could have just cut Pittman and it still would have been a defensible football move. So the fact that they got anything back in a trade, even just moving up a little in the late rounds, was, in his view, a huge win for the front office. It just goes to show you how quickly even star players can become disposable when their contract gets too big.
But the demolition wasn't just on the offensive side of the ball. Oh no. The next hard goodbye came on defense, with the trade of linebacker Zaire Franklin. And this was another move that sent some real shockwaves through the fan base. I mean, Franklin was the heart and soul of that defense. For the last 2 seasons, the guy has been an absolute tackling machine, leading the team and finishing right near the top of the entire NFL in tackles. He was the on-field general, the guy with the green dot in his helmet getting the calls from the sideline. Think about that. Losing Pittman and Franklin in the same offseason means you've just ripped out 2 of your most respected veteran captains. That's not just losing talent, that's a massive culture shift.
Now, this deal was completely different from the Pittman trade. This wasn't about dumping salary. This was a classic, old-school, player-for-player swap. Franklin went to Green Bay, and coming back to Indianapolis was a young defensive tackle named Colby Wooden. And this is where Ballard's blueprint gets really interesting. He traded his leading tackler, his defensive signal caller, to get a rotational D lineman. He fixed a problem on his defensive line by purposefully creating a giant hole at linebacker. It's a bold move, kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it tells you everything you need to know about what the Colts believe. It's a lot easier to find a decent linebacker than it is to find a promising young interior pass rusher. And once again, this quote from Walder just pulls back the curtain on the whole strategy. It's not just about getting younger, it's about getting younger and way, way cheaper. Wooden is on a rookie contract, so he costs next to nothing against the salary cap. This move is just a masterclass in proactive roster building. See, the Colts' defensive line is anchored by 2 absolute monsters, DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart. Fantastic players, but they're both 32 years old, which is getting up there for guys in the trenches, and Stewart is in the last year of his deal. So instead of just waiting for them to get old or for a contract fight to happen, Ballard is acting a year or 2 early. He's bringing in their replacement now, letting Wooden learn from the vets, get valuable playing time, all for the bargain price of about $1 million. That is some brilliant long-term thinking.
Okay, the demolition phase is over. The old structures are gone. Now we get to the fun part, the new construction. So in Section 3, we're diving into the calculated additions. See, a good architect doesn't just clear a site and hope for the best. They have a very precise plan for what's going up in its place. And for the Colts, that meant bringing in very specific, targeted reinforcements designed to add value, youth, and a whole lot of power, especially along those all-important lines of scrimmage.
The front office took a long, hard look at the 2025 season, and they saw one massive, fatal flaw. They could not get to the quarterback from the defensive end spot. It's simple. In today's NFL, if you can't disrupt the passer, your defense is going to get shredded. It doesn't matter how good your corners are, they can't cover guys for 5 or 6 seconds. So, the Colts made a very decisive change. They let their starters from last year, Kwity Paye and Samson Ebukam, just walk in free agency, didn't even put up much of a fight. And instead, they set their sights on a smarter, more efficient, value-based upgrade.
And man, the numbers back this move up 100%. Let's just look at the tail of the tape from last season.
Their new guy, Arden Key, had 33 pressures and 4 sacks. Kwity Paye had 38 pressures and 4 sacks. At first glance, that seems pretty close, right? But you gotta look closer. Key did that in only 12 games, while it took Paye a full 17-game season to get his numbers. Key's rate of getting pressure was way higher. But here's the knockout blow, this stat from ESPN Analytics. Kwity Paye ranked dead last, not near the bottom, dead last, among all qualifying edge rushers in pass rush win rate. That stat measures how often you beat your blocker in less than 2.5 seconds. It's the purest measure of a pass rusher's ability, and Paye was literally the worst in the league. This wasn't just an upgrade, it was getting rid of a major inefficiency. And here is the absolute best part for Chris Ballard and the Colts. They got this statistically proven upgrade for practically nothing. 2 years, $16 million. That's an average of just $8 million a year. In a free agent market where average middle-of-the-road pass rushers are getting $12, $15 million a year, this is an absolute steal. This single move perfectly sums up the Colts' new philosophy. It's not about winning the press conference by signing the biggest name. It's about winning on Sunday by finding the smartest, most efficient, high-value contracts to fix your biggest weaknesses.
And that brings us right back to that other piece of new construction, Colby Wooden. Remember, he wasn't just the guy they got back in the Zaire Franklin trade. He is a crucial part of this whole reinforcement plan. This is a young player who is getting better and better. He's coming off a breakout season in Green Bay where he was just constantly causing problems, putting up 50 tackles and 11 pressures as a rotational guy. He brings a kind of quickness and athleticism to the middle of that D-line that the older guys Buckner and Stewart just don't really have anymore. He's that shot of youthful energy, that future-proofing piece of the puzzle, and he's basically the heir apparent to the throne in the middle of that defensive line.
But hold on, even with all these major moves already done, the architect's job isn't finished. Nope. The sound of construction has not stopped in Indianapolis. And that brings us right into Section 4, because all the signs are pointing to one more big domino that's about to fall, another major renovation that seems to be right around the corner.
So, who's the next veteran on the trading block? Well, all the reporting seems to point to one guy, veteran cornerback and team captain Kenny Moore II. Moore has been one of the great stories for this team, an undrafted free agent who literally clawed his way up to become a Pro Bowl slot corner and one of the most respected guys on the entire roster. But the key phrase here is that he and the team have mutually agreed to look for a trade. This isn't some ugly public fight. It's just another calculated, pre-planned step in this youth movement. It looks like the Colts have already decided that Moore's next contract is going to be too rich for their long-term plan, so they're trying to get some value for him now instead of just letting him walk away for nothing next offseason.
So where could he end up? Well, you can bet a bunch of contending teams are going to be calling. Let's look at the top candidates. The Dallas Cowboys make a ton of sense. They have a huge need for a veteran slot corner, and they've got the draft picks to make a deal. The Kansas City Chiefs are always looking for smart, versatile DBs, and their defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, would have a field day with Moore, who is one of the best blitzing corners in the entire league. An interesting dark horse could be the Minnesota Vikings, which would reunite him with his old teammate Isaiah Rodgers in that secondary. And then you've got the Carolina Panthers. They've been spending a ton of money to rebuild their defense under a new coaching staff, and they might just be willing to overpay in a trade to get a proven leader like Moore to stabilize that young secondary. If a bidding war breaks out, I'd keep a close eye on the Panthers to be the team that goes all in.
All right, we have walked the entire construction site, we've looked at the demolition of the old guard, we've analyzed the new reinforcements they brought in, and we've even looked at the plans for future renovations. So now it is time for the final inspection. Let's step back, get that bird's eye view, and really evaluate the architect's master plan. Is Chris Ballard building a skyscraper that's going to dominate the skyline for years to come, or are there some fundamental cracks in this new foundation? When you lay it all out like this, the method to the madness becomes incredibly clear. It's a really disciplined 4-step process. Step 1, get flexible. They use that Pittman trade to clear a ton of future cap space because they know financial freedom is the ultimate weapon in team building. Step 2, find value. Instead of just throwing money at the biggest names, they find those little market inefficiencies, and the Arden Key signing is the perfect example. Step 3, get younger and cheaper. They use smart trades like the one for Colby Wooden to bring in young, talented players on those controllable rookie contracts, which are the most valuable thing in the entire NFL. And finally, step 4, plan ahead. Every single move we've talked about today wasn't just about winning in 2026, it was about setting this franchise up for success in 2027, 2028, and beyond.
And so that really brings us to the final crucial takeaway from all this. What we've seen from the Colts this offseason is a masterclass in a very specific, very disciplined, and very unemotional team-building philosophy. It is without a doubt a calculated gamble.
The Colts are knowingly trading away productive, popular veteran leaders in exchange for the promise of future potential and the power of financial flexibility. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. By prioritizing spreadsheets over sentiment and long-term value over established names, have Chris Ballard and the Colts figured out a smarter, more sustainable way to build a champion? Or, in their quest to build that perfect structure, will they find out they lost the heart and soul, that veteran leadership that held the old foundation together? Only time is going to tell if the architect's blueprint was the right one. I want to know what you think, so drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching this deep dive on NFL Nexus. And just a quick reminder, if you'd like to help support the channel, you can purchase our coloring books. They're perfect for kids, grandkids, and even adults. You can find them through the link in the description or by using the QR code on your screen right now. We'll see you next time.